Hello, welcome. Welcome. I just like to say hello, and I'm Samantha Amit, and welcoming you in right now. Today, we're going to be talking about overdoing and how to actually move from a place where we are like running on the treadmill and learning to go from being over responsible to being able to, lean back, increase our level of trust, and actually, how can we grow ourselves, manage ourselves better, manage our teams, lead our teams better, and actually make a better impact on the business? So, how do we get out of that rut of being over responsible? How do we get out of that rut of wanting just to control everything? And so, hi, I'm Samantha Amit. I coach leaders in over 40 countries, and I'm seeing the same things that come up time and again. That people are anxious, people are trying to control everything, and it doesn't work to our advantage because you stay stuck. You stay stuck, and your team stays stuck. So let's learn together over the next 30 minutes what we can do differently. So, we're going to be talking about an actual mindset shift. So, as you're coming in now, hello, welcome. And I'm going to actually invite you as you're listening to just breathe. We don't breathe enough. So, let's just take a couple of deep breaths, breathing in and breathing out. And even now, checking what is our mindset like? Is our mind calm and clear? Or does it feel fuzzy? Do we feel in our hearts overwhelmed? How are we feeling right now? And so today we're going to be speaking about when doing more stops working. And we want to look into the mindset shift from over responsibility to real influence, to real strategic leadership. And so maybe you've reached that point when you know that you need to shake things up a bit. You need to try something new. And that's what we're here to do together. And so maybe it's the next level for you. And what is that next level? So that next level could be a mental level of knowing that you're ready now to make this mindset shift. It could be an emotional level because you may decide that you're just taking things to heart too much, taking things too personally. And maybe you're noticing that you get frustrated, you get annoyed, you get overwhelmed, you get angry, anxious. And so you want to shift that. Maybe you want a promotion and you're feeling like you're doing, but you're not seen. So if that's the case, then you are in the right place. So the leaders I coach, they are high performers. And so they are high achievers. And by nature, they're very successful. But they were very successful because they're so good at fixing things. And they anticipate. So they fix things even before they break. They take responsibility for everyone. So it's a lot on your shoulders. Sometimes you say yes because explaining or delegating just takes too much time. And then maybe the person that you're delegating to has gotten it wrong before. And so, it's a lot of stress. And maybe you are delegating, but you can delegate so much more. You're in back-to-back meetings. And so that something has to shift. And you want to be more visible to actually senior management, not just, be doing things with your team all the time. And so you do feel respected. You're respected. Your team highly respects you. But outside of your team, people just know you as the go-to person, go to Sam because she's going to get it done. And so you're respected, but you're not respected enough to get to the next level. And you are influential, yet you're very reactive. So things come your way and you're very, very busy, like overly busy getting things done. And so you're leading everyone, but you don't always take time to lead yourself. And so some of the managers I speak to tell me that they would love to have more work-life balance. They would love to not be working so hard, but they're doing things that's not exactly in their role because they're overdoing, they're in too many meetings, they're overly responsible, and so they don't have time, they don't have space for real influence, they don't have space in their day to be strategic, to even have time to think. And then the hidden costs, there are lots of hidden costs. So just to name a few, there's the emotional fatigue. And so as I mention it, just breathe in and breathe out. Some of you that may be listening to this may know somebody who, is always overly busy. And so there's a price because it can lead to burnout. And so what we want to do today, we don't want to be overly responsible. It's nice to be responsible. We don't want anything to be over. So emotional fatigue, it's okay once in a while to feel tired, but we don't want it to be like the whole month feels tired. Like I just wake up on Monday morning, and I'm like, oh dear, it's Monday. Oh yay, it's Friday. And so even though you may love your work and the people I coach love their work, but we all need time, we all need space in our day to be more strategic. So too much execution mode, too much team dependency on you, and frustration and self-doubt. And that's a high price to pay. And you can live differently. So you may realize that if I stop for a day, things are going to fall apart. And if you're thinking that I'm so needed that if I'm not around, things will fall apart, that's huge intensity. And you're keeping others small. You're not allowing others to grow when you are taking so much on yourself. And so what we want to do is we want to move into that space of finding out, okay, what are the steps I can take? How can I actually be still responsible, but not overly responsible? So if you don't know me, I'm Samantha Amit. I've been coaching for over 18 years. I came from a background of software development. I'm a programmer. I studied, my first degree was in computer science. And so today I coach leaders in the cyberspace, in the tech space, professional services, manufacturing, across multiple industries. I'm also a mindfulness teacher, so I teach meditation. And as the reason why I'm so passionate about the subject is that I too was over controlling. I too didn't know how to stop. It's actually quite hilarious that I'm a meditation teacher because when I started meditating, I thought it was an absolute waste of time. My to-do list used to come up in front of me and I couldn't understand, like, why am I wasting my time meditating? It's not going to work. It's not going to help me. But truthfully, if I go back in time, it all started when I was 15 years old and my father lost his brother in a car accident. And I remember the day when I heard like the strange noise. And so I walked into my parents' room and my father was on the floor crying in this position of like a baby. And he had the telephone in his hand and he was speaking to the police who had let him know that his brother had been killed in a car accident. And that minute was a minute that I felt like the earth fall through my feet because my father was like my strength. He was my security. And that moment was a turning point for me because I decided that I was going to take life and I was going to control things. I was going to be the best at everything. And I didn't want to be shaken up like that again. And so I went into action mode and I became a perfectionist and a pleaser to please my parents. and a perfectionist to just make sure I was the best. And I just went from accomplishment to accomplishment. I married early, had 2 kids quite early. And then what happened is after the second kid and being a leader, manager in software, things again started falling because I was just controlling everything. Even at home, I used to get home and that emotional fatigue I told you about, it set in. I didn't have patience. I didn't have patience for my 2 kids. And so I just knew that something had to change, because when my kid called me and I like shouted back, "What do you want?" And then my kid started crying, I knew that this is not the mom I wanted to be. So even though I was great at work, but overly responsible and spinning wheels, at home, I had like no patience at all. And so that's when I started meditating. And so what I do today is I bring mindfulness. Mindfulness is a kind of meditation where we learn to be present, because presence is actually a gift that we all need today. If we want to be impactful, it's so important to learn how to create leadership presence. And so that's what I do. I do with leaders in 50 different countries, and many tools like the Daily Leadership Reset, which is available to you for free. So just reach out to me and I will be so happy to share that with you. So, I wrote this book called Mindfulness at Work, which I co-authored with a professor of psychology. And this book, this is what I do with you now, even today. And so let's actually jump right in. I want to give you a tool that you can take and you can use with yourself and your teams. And it's in the book. It's from Mindfulness at Work that I co-authored with Professor Jonathan Passmore. And I created this model because I saw that, we have to bear in mind 3 pillars. And so the first pillar is achieve. So maybe I'll actually backstep. And so I want to just say that it's called ACT. It's an ACT model because you do need to do something. You need to be proactive. You can't be passive. And so if you want to move from being overly responsible to being strategic, let's see how we can use the ACT model. So first of all, you want to pay attention to yourself. And like, are you in too many meetings? So that's the achieve piece. How can I achieve more? And what do I want to achieve? What impact do I want to make? And so we want to work on 2 levels. One level is understanding, how can I be a better for myself? Like, what do I need for myself? And then on the other level is, how can I reduce my frustration? How can I reduce my stress? Because when that happens, the prefrontal cortex of our brain actually starts, that's our executive functioning. And that often shuts down when we're overwhelmed. And so that's going to prevent you from being creative. It's going to prevent you from being strategic. It's going to prevent you from trusting your employees, and they're not going to feel calm because you are too frustrated, too overwhelmed, angry. So you need to sort your stuff out. And so that's the achieve part of the model. So the next part of the model is connect. It's the C. It's me and my one-on-one relationships. It's me and my one-to-many relationships. And so how am I showing up with my team? Or how am I showing up in my one-on-one meetings or my one-to-many meetings? And so how present are you? When you're in a meeting, let's say a virtual meeting, a lot of my, the teams and the members that I coach, it's all virtual, hybrid. They work in hybrid environments. And so some of them have 3 screens, not even 2 screens, 3 screens that they're navigating and trying to listen to a meeting at the same time. Now, I'm not sure if you know this, but we can't multitask. Our brain doesn't know to multitask. So basically, you are hopping from, one thing to the next. And so you're not fully there. You think you are, but you're not fully focused, and it's creating havoc within your body. So if you want to really actually reduce the stress within your body and give people the gift of your presence, switch off your other screens, try and see if you can just like really be. So even now, what are you doing while you're listening to me or maybe watching me? You know, if you're walking, and it's that I call like a win-win if you're walking. But if you are checking your emails or doing another task, that causes within your body a lot of stress. So just notice that. And you choose how you're going to show up. First of all, showing up for yourself. So in these one-on-ones or one-to-many, we want to bring in more presence, and we want to be able to also see how in my one-on-ones I can be more clear in delivering. I can be more clear, first of all, to myself, how I want to, grow this direct report. And if I want to delegate, because I don't want to take over responsibility and I want to actually empower, what I see a lot of people are doing is what a lot of team leaders or managers are doing is they'll delegate something and then they may not explain fully, or the person just says, yes, they got it, but they didn't really get it because they didn't check in. And then a second real mistake is to let go too much. So you want to align. If, as an example, when people are having dailies, the dailies came about so that you can check in with people, that you can understand if there are any problems and where they're at. So whenever you are actually, letting go of something, giving something to somebody else, it's so important to check in with them and how you're doing, like what's going on, what's working, what isn't working. And if you're too busy because you're the manager, then maybe you've got a tech lead, maybe you've got somebody else on the team that could support this person who's fairly new at this task or project, just to make sure that, they're on track. Because often what happens is we check in too late along the line, and then sometimes a whole week has gone past. And then you really get triggered because you were expecting A and you get, I don't know, A minus 100. So, this connect piece is so important of how you manage the connect piece. And so the next part of the model is called T. So the T is for thrive instead of survive. And today there is so much complexity around us. And I want to remind you that you are human. And so you're meeting another human and another humans. And so we want to be able to see outside of our team and to see the cross teams and to grow our relationships across teams so that we have stronger relationships with stakeholders. They could be internal stakeholders, they could be external stakeholders. So I do a lot of work on this because when you've got a stronger relationship, there's a much better chance of thriving. When you don't do that, there's conflict. There's conflict between teams. There's a misalignment. People are expecting different things. And so we really want to, pay attention to outside of our team, the cross teams, the internal stakeholders, the external stakeholders. So I've got a model that I use also to help you be clear around the structure, around the processes that you need internally and externally. And so let's move on. And the real shift happens where it's not about doing more. So it's about creating the conditions where more can happen without you holding on to it all. And so if you are the kind of manager that manages with a hub and spoke, which means that everything has to come through you, then you're going to cause a lot of delays. It's going to be really you taking over responsibility. We want to get out of this hub and spoke where you have to be the go-to person, where everything comes through you. And so letting go. Letting go doesn't mean disengaging. I spoke about that before. It means checking in and finding that cadence between being a micromanager to checking in and just like, how's it going? What's working? How you doing? Show me. And I'll tell you, it's also to do with your presence, because if you're going to come in and you're going to be stressed when you meet your direct report and you're checking in with them, they're going to pick that up. They're going to pick up that you don't trust them. So there are a lot of things that we're working on simultaneously here to bring your leadership presence into the moment, to be able to step back but lean in with trust. And then, so it's this kind of movement, and it's a beautiful movement. And so we want to have boundaries that create freedom. And calm is contagious. So there's a concept called emotional contagion. And what emotional contagion means is that our emotions are contagious like the flu. So if there's stress in the system, so let's say, for example, I've got a lot of companies I work with where there's structuring going on. So it's the big companies, it's the small startups. Things are forever changing. We have to get used to the messiness of, which is the nature of our lives today. Our lives today are messy. There is chaos everywhere. And so within the chaos, we want to create calm. And so we want to be able to meet the chaos with calm, and you can. It's all about that relationship. And that's where my mindfulness practice comes in really deeply. We do visualizations within the coaching, within the groups, like the Strategic Shift Accelerator that I run is a group that moves through, and we do all this that I'm talking about. So if you feel that you need extra, please do reach out for me, to me, to talk more about this. And so there's a lot of reflection time. Reflection time means that you need to take time to stop and pause and understand, how did my day go? How did my week go? So for the reflection, I have a free tool called the Daily Leadership Reset. So this forms part of all my programs that I have. And the leaders that use it see how the reflection creates clarity. And clarity is gold. Clarity is what moves things today. So we want to move from being in this over effort mode of doing to focused impact. We want to move from being the rescuer and having that rescuer mindset to empowered delegation. We want to move from being reactive to reflective. We want to move from emotional drain and fatigue to emotional steadiness. And you can do it because I see this happening every day. And that's why I'm bringing you this because I want to, first of all, make you believe that it's possible. First of all, you have to believe, you have to want to try. And there is an effort that we put in, but it's a small effort. You move from proving yourself to start contributing. And I want to tell you a story about Russell. And you're going to see all these things here with Russell, how you move from over effort to focused impact, how you move from the rescuer to delegating, how you move from being reactive to reflective, from being tired to emotional steadiness, and to contributing. All this I'm going to show you now in the next few minutes. So meet Russell. When I met him, he was managing 7 people. He was in back-to-back meetings. He was tired. He was overly anxious. I've written here, he was anxious. He was overly anxious. Of course, he was overly responsible. He had no breaks in his day. And pausing was something he never thought of. So what happened is a lot of the tools we use, like the daily leadership reset, the reflection, getting clear, the delegating, because he was in like this overdoing, over-responsible mode, he didn't even have the space to sit back, to lean back, and actually think about, what do I want to do differently? So that's where a coach can really help this. So what we did is we started, first of all, identifying the meetings that he didn't need to be in. And he started already empowering his team to replace him in some of the meetings. And then he started pausing before meetings and pausing after meetings. And he created these buffers, there's some space in his day. And you may have space, but what I know from all the leaders that I'm working closely with, no matter how much space you create, it's like never enough, because there is so much clarity we need to get, because there is so much complexity in the system, and things are moving so fast, and there's so much to catch up. And so it can be very overwhelming. So the more time you have to actually reflect, the greater you're going to become. And it helps to reflect with somebody. If you are actually now, if this is resonating with you, where you may be live with me, or you may be not even live with me, you may be listening to this, you can just imagine how strong it is when we're in a group setting or when we're one-on-one together. So let's see the radical shift that Russell actually made. And so he wanted a promotion, and he actually was promised a promotion, but he knew that it wasn't going to happen. His COO was not even meeting with him. And so the first thing he decided is he wanted to be seen with the senior leaders, because they were going to be the ones that were going to actually have buy-in on his promotion. And so he started attending meetings. And the first thing he did was, of course, he had to make space in his calendar so that he could show up at the meetings. He was invited and he started attending these meetings. And when he showed up, first of all, what he did is he listened. So he listened, and very quickly he understood that he could contribute. And so everything started to shift when he was in these meetings with senior people, and he started to speak up. And he started to contribute meaningfully, making an impact. That's the thrive piece of the Mindful Act leadership model. Okay, if I go back to the model, let me just see if I can find it quickly. Here's the model here. If I go back to the model of the achieve, the connect, and the thrive of the act, that's the thrive piece where he's impacting many to many relationships. So, Russell started seeing this impact that he was having, and he really started getting this visibility into these meetings. And of course, he received his promotion. So what I want to ask you, I'm going to start closing, but I want to leave you with some exercises to do. This is the important part, because you can listen and you can listen as much as you can. But what's really important is starting to see how you're going to make this shift from being this over-responsible, overdoing manager into, creating this real influence and showing up where you contribute, not only to people in your team, but actually to the business. And how can you do that? So one of the first steps is noticing your energy and noticing where you're present or not. And so where am I over-involved? And it could be that you're in meetings that people have asked you to come to and you've stepped into, but it's not exactly part of your role. And where do I drain my own energy? Again, this is the daily leadership reset. We start noticing this because we start journaling. We start actually, we have like this template for catching in the moment what's going on, what's draining my energy. And then you could even ask yourself at the end of the day, when you reflect on your day, what would less intense look like today? So if you did this practice of closing your eyes just for 30 seconds, and so breathing in and breathing out. So breathing in life and breathing out any tension. And maybe drop into a situation where you know you're holding too much. And just see yourself there. Maybe it's a situation where you are overly responsible. Just noticing that. And on the next in breath, asking yourself what could happen if you trusted more. And so, just to wrap up, I want to say that, if you start making these changes, you're going to see results and you'll actually see them quite quickly. So, your communication is going to become clearer. You'll be partnering more with your team rather than being, just delegating and being like this direct leader. You'll start feeling more trust within yourself, within the team. Your visibility is going to grow. Your team is going to step up because you're going to be leaning back more. You're going to be creating more space and maybe, having an impact on the business more. Your calm is going to replace chaos. Your influence will expand and really you're going to feel more energized, less tired. You're going to have more positive emotions during your day and maybe be less triggered. So the truth is the leaders I coach don't work less. They just work differently because they have a different relationship. You see, they replace control with clarity. They replace this intensity with intention, first of all. And so please, DM me, join my next Mindset Shift Live. There are also more recordings. You can find them, if you follow me, Samantha Amit. And I will answer all the questions that I'm seeing here in the comments afterwards. I'm sorry I haven't, been there for you. But I just want to ask you just today, what's one thing you're going to be doing to actually, bring more presence into your moment and just dial back a little bit on being over responsible. So thank you so much for being here today. Thank you for your time. And I look forward to being with you in touch. And bye for now, Samantha Amit.